Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends and family beyond the binary, good evening and welcome to another broadcast from the CENC Southeast Invitational brought to you by the U.S. Army. Tonight we have Appalachian State taking on Auburn for that last spot in the land for November 6th. My name is Warren Jugglegod Hammond, and tonight I am joined by my friend and partner in crime, Mintus. How are you doing?
Well, it has been quite some time since we've casted together, but what better way to reconnect and get on the mic together once again? I'm feeling fantastic, ready to watch some wonderful Overwatch between these two teams. And both of these teams actually have quite the storied history as we get into some of the backstories behind both of these squads. App State, they have a couple of players on their team that's been playing in Open Division for quite some time. Kai and Caffeine were recently on Best Buds, who received third place in the most recent Open Division. So they're coming into this tournament with that competitive experience behind them. Meanwhile, Auburn themselves have been playing in a lot of different tournaments. They've won Trank Season 5. They've been playing in TESPA. They've gone on to playoffs multiple times in the past. So both of these teams have been playing together for quite some time. And now we're going to finally get to see how they stack up against one another.
Yeah, and it is certain to be a very interesting matchup. Now, just a reminder, both of these teams are playing for that first place slot and that that potential to go to the LAN on November 6th, where they're going to play for the grand prize. But regardless, whoever comes up, this, by the way, are the semifinals. Whoever comes away with first place is going to leave with $1,000. 500 goes to second. So both of these teams really want to make it through this next matchup.
I mean, I would. It's $1,000, right? Like,
yes.
It's just money in the bank for sure. And something that we should try to shine a big light on going into this series is what these two teams are comfortable with. And something we're likely going to see throughout the match is an evolving style, even though this is a best of 3 format, which means the first team to get 2 wins on the board comes away with the dub. You will have to make some kind of adaptations here. App State is a team that loves to play that double bubble Winston Zarya tank style. And that is a style of Overwatch that is very slow, but when it gets ramped up, it's going to go the distance. It is a very powerful composition if you give it a lot of time. Meanwhile, on the other side, we're going to have Auburn, who, according to themselves, have a propensity for Reinhardt compositions, that rush style, very quick, very over the top. If you can get into that backline, you're going to find success, but it might struggle to go the distance. So this is going to be a very interesting clash of styles that we see play out.
It certainly is. I'm very interested, especially in watching Appalachian State, because I feel like double bubble is a composition that we've seen kind of go out of vogue recently.
Yeah.
It's really kind of been like usurped by the 6-man dive, I feel like. And so I'm really going to be curious to see how this, what is, it's become an older composition, but what does old really mean in Overwatch, right? Just a couple of months, but an older composition that isn't played as often. So really fascinated to see how this will work out.
Looks like both teams are actually kind of subverting the expectations, so to speak. We have App State coming in on Winston Diva rather than the particular Zarya in the past. Meanwhile, Auburn playing something a little bit more hybrid style. They've got this Wrecking Ball or Risa tank line with the Pharah in the skies above, try to take as many angles as possible before the point unlocks. Meanwhile, App State has to play together, play tight, and try to find a single target to go onto in this opening engage.
And that's going to be very, very difficult, given how mobile and well protected so many of the members of Auburn are going to be in this.
True.
We see McCree Martin trying to layer in some shots from outside for Auburn, but not really finding a whole lot at this point. The App State has come away with first control of this point, which isn't unexpected given the kind of compositions that we're seeing around here. But the fight is breaking out in Fury on point. Moira goes down kind of low, but she's able to get healed back up. Wrecking Ball comes in, drops the mines, which are already, that is huge. 2 people go down almost immediately from that on the side of Appalachian State. So Auburn's going to be able to push in now and take this point under their control.
Just got to stand on that objective to flip it back in their favor, but as expected, App State's composition here is very well suited to playing on that point, stacking up the 6, making sure as many people as possible can stay alive. But they lost Effortless so early on that there was no threats that could deal with the Brad in the sky. Charles pocketing as well. I mean, that barrage, those mines, it's just impossible to stand on the point, so naturally Auburn will flip it back in their favor. And this interesting hybrid style is actually playing in their favor, because now App State on this recontest only have this Coalescence and Effortless swapping over to Soldier as well to deal with Pharah.
Yeah, that's going to be a boon for them in the sky, but it's going to make it a little more difficult to get 2 points since they have to reset their ult charge. Picks on either side so far, but all of a sudden, things are opening up in a big way for Auburn on the back of some fantastic play from their tanks.
And if you look at the rest of their comp as well, it's very well suited to stalling it out. As you can see, Werner dropping the bongo down, going to try to buy some time, but they've given up objective control, and App State has rotated into the perfect spot. Great coalescence from Madge to try to close this out, and they're chasing down Werner.
Yeah, that they are. Werner is going down that alley, trying to get away from this damage that's coming in from Appalachian State, but having a little bit of a hard time too. Looking into this next fight as well, Appalachian State has a lot of ultimates that they can take into this fight.
They got to use it early, though. I'm looking at this Diva Bomb in particular. Once Werner's single Orisa shield goes down, it could be huge.
That it could, but we see the aggression starting on the high ground already. There's Backstab Bud with a huge Death Blossom coming in absolutely tremendously in favor of Appalachian State. That was just a great engagement there by the tanks and the rest of that team.
Absolutely. And if you look at the engaged location, it's in a spot where the Brad's Farah cannot reliably get a good damage in. The barrage never came through. It happened so quickly. A backstab button glisten and just ended the fight almost instantly. Prince Willie has to be the one to force the objective, drop the mines behind App State as they're rotating away. But they don't care. They're going in.
Yeah, they're going after the high ground. They say, you can take the point, we're going to take your team. Immortality Field has to be used, but it's only going to be good for so long as Auburn is just chewed through by Backstab Bud and the rest of the members of App State.
I mean, there's really nothing that Auburn can do in that scenario because they're playing this composition that wants to be so split. They really don't have an effective way to deal with that big dive coming in from App State, and really nobody ever went down in that process either. Auburn tried to take a lot of different engages across the map, but App State just ignored it and went to their own win condition. So great play from them to start this series off.
Yeah, it really was. I like what I've seen quite a bit from them. You know, they knew they had to play patiently at the beginning, right?
Right.
And they took it slow. And once they got their ult rotation online, they were able to cycle it beautifully and just keep the pressure on Auburn. So it's going to be up to Auburn, I think, to try and counter what App State has been throwing at them. And really, they have to find an answer, I think, for Backstab Bud.
Absolutely. I think Reaper in general is a hero that the longer you ignore them, the more likely that a pick is going to come through or that Death Blossom will get built up. He's going to TP into your back line and just start shredding you apart. Auburn doesn't really have any effective tools to deal directly with the Reaper, but maybe they can access a different part of App State's composition by swapping over to Torb. They can blow up that front line, and that's exactly what happens. Backstab Bud is already down.
Yeah, and without him in the fight, that's going to be a big boon for Auburn. They're going to be able to push a lot harder. Fortify has to be used by Werner, though, a little bit early. They don't have any resources available defensively, though, and so App State is going to move on to point and start to proc that percentage. But 10 gets another pick, and now it's coming through like a waterfall for Auburn. They're going to take first control of this point.
That's the first of likely many changes we're going to see throughout the course of this match. The Brad making that swap over made the difference in that first fight because it allowed them to get the pick on the Backstab Bud. But you know what? He's all right. He can get his own picks too. He's going to come back in, open things up. That's not in a resible position, so this will be a 5v6. Auburn has to come up with the goods.
Yeah, they certainly do, and it's taking a little while for them to get going. And like you said, the longer this goes, the more it's going to favor Appalachian State. Backstab Bud now in a great position to start to push on the tank line of Auburn. Immortality Field used, but it's only going to last for so long. And Werner goes down immediately after it is out. And that's going to be a fight win for Appalachian State. They're going to be able to take control of this point as soon as they decide that the fight is over.
Yeah, they just got to go back and stand on the point. Because of the fact that they didn't, Prince Willie will get a good stall in. Maybe Auburn can recontest this.
Ooh, it looks like they can, especially now that Prince Willie has dropped those mines. Backstab Bud removed from the fight as well. The Brad now layers that Molten Core in as well. There's so much on the point that App State can't stand on it. Despite taking control of it, take that back. Self-destruct comes in. Things are looking a little bit better now for Appalachian State as they're going to get reinforcements coming in soon as well, but they have to deal with Werner, and now the res is back onto the Brad. They have the supercharger out
How
too,
is he alive?
and that's going to clear the point.
He just lived through so much damage with that Fortify. That was huge. This fight is just never ending, it feels like, because of these two compositions. They come running back from spawn to take another fight. Fight and fight. Again, Backstab Bud getting these opening picks, and here comes the Death Blossom. It's over instantly.
that was tremendous. As soon as he got back in the fight, he provided value in spades. And now they're going to get this stagger kill onto the Brad as well. And despite Auburn coming away with quite a bit of percentage, it's down to Appalachian State now.
Yeah, they're in the driver's seat, and although they don't have a lot of ultimates to make it happen, I'm expecting big things out of Effortless this fight. He's got this tack visor. If he goes on a wide flank, Auburn's not adequately prepared to deal with all that damage from multiple angles, and with Backstab Bud being able to TP in behind as well, there's a lot of different ways they can try to take this fight.
Yeah, there certainly are. And they're going to take it the way where Prince Willie is removed first, it appears, as Effortless goes into the backline. He has the Coalescence behind him from Madge coming in. The Molten Core from the Brad didn't really gain them that much room, unfortunately. At least for Auburn, that is.
You know, this is a bit of a head scratcher for me because I'm trying to figure out where this Wrecking Ball gets the value. It can't get a good dive off. It's just too difficult, and trying to pressure the objective has not proved successful. It's only worked once now. Now App State are more than prepared to deal with it. They're going to go deep in, and they've already removed Charles.
Yeah, Warner goes down as well very, very quickly. Effortless pops the tack visor and just starts mowing people down left and right. Gets taken out himself, though, by the turret from the Brad. So there is an opportunity now for Auburn to come back in this as two members of App State are down. But Diva has this self-destruct ready as well. They pop it on the point, but it's not going to be enough. They step away, and App State takes the win.
Such an interesting opening map here. App State coming away with 2 sub-map victories, not dropping a single one to Auburn. And the first adaptation that we've seen in the series so far is Effortless going over to the Soldier 76, which is very interesting because when you think about a 6-man dive composition, Soldier doesn't really typically fit into that mold, but regardless, it suited it so well because it added just an additional layer of consistency to keep that front line alive, particularly Backstab Bud. Because when you saw the enemy team go to Torbjorn and then the Reaper dies first in that engage, well, that's going to throw in a huge wrench in the plans of App State. So they come right back into it with the next fight, and it just seems like it's a completely different team from then on.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I feel like, you know, you and I have talked about a lot is that Overwatch is a game about adaptation, right?
Yeah.
And we saw that adaptation in spades from Appalachian State, but not so much from the side of Auburn. And I think that was part of the key as well. You know, Appalachian State really took stock of what they were running into. They took a deep breath and they said, okay, you know what? We throw away that old charge we built up and we go to something that's going to work in the long run. And that's what happened. They were able to come back and take that fine win despite Auburn getting about 40% on the point.
Very true. And something that I think we should point a lot of attention to as to why those adaptations never came through was the tank line. We saw this Orisa Wrecking Ball comp that, I'm going to be honest, it's not meta because it's just too spread apart in what it's trying to do. You saw a lot of the time the Orisa was trying to hold down that front line with the Bongo, with the Fortify, but not having a close range damage source in your off tank. It's just not going to assist the Orisa in the way that it needs to. And then we saw the Wrecking Ball trying to pressure the objective from behind the enemy team. And every single time, App State just sends one back, and it's like it never even happened in the first place. So yeah, just too many eggs in too many different baskets, it feels like, for Auburn. So going into this next map, we need to see a bit of a refinement in their strategy.
I like that word refinement, you know, and I feel like focus goes along well with it too, because it really felt like that composition wasn't focused, you know, like you were saying, too many pots that they were trying to put their hands into. And so if they just settle onto one principle or one composition or one plan, then I think we can see a lot of improvement coming in from them on this next map. And I'm excited to see where we go for it.
Me too. And honestly, I do hope that Auburn tries to make some of these changes, particularly in the locale that we're going towards, because like we've talked about, they have shown a propensity in the past for playing Reinhardt comps. But if you look at Ilios, it's a map that doesn't really favor Reinhardt when compared to what App State was running. So we might go towards something where Brawl is likely going to be played. And I'm looking at maps like Kings Row, depending on, of course, what the next map type is.
Yes.
Regardless, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Auburn comes out of the gates with.
Yeah, as am I, because, you know, this quarterfinal match has a lot on the line. They will be going to the, whoever takes this is going to be going on to the semifinals. Not quite the finals yet, so there's still more rungs that they have to climb up this ladder. And that first rung is going to start on HAVANA for Auburn.
This is the start of the reverse sweep, and while it is not a very long road to doing so, I think there's plenty of potential for it. Something that you and I have actually had a bit of a recent experience with, practice
Hmm.
casting over some Overwatch Contenders games. We watched a Havana
Yes.
map, and both of the teams were very keen on playing Rush here. And so I think this will definitely favor Auburn. Obviously, App State can come right into this next map and mirror it, maybe have a decent chance at success. But regardless, I think this will give Auburn a better foot to start on. And then from that position, make some adaptations throughout the course of the map that will hopefully let them get back into the series.
Yeah, because their backs are firmly against the wall right now. This is their do or die moment. If they have any hope of going on to that LAN on November 6th, they need to take a win on this map. Not only need to, they have to take a map
Yep.
on this in this map. They have to take a win here.
It's do or die time, trying to put your money where your mouth is, literally, to get that 1K that's on the line within the finals. We're going to be going to Havana very soon. Again, we will take a close look at what both teams are running out of the gates here.
Hmm.
I would not be too surprised to see not only App State selecting defense to start, but going for some kind of spawn hold to try to burn as much time
Hmm.
off the clock. If they're starting on that kind of rush style composition, you can take a lot of fights at close range by playing in their spawn. So we'll have to watch very closely to see how this match starts off, because I think momentum is going to be another big factor going throughout this map. If you can get control and then snowball it into further wins in other team fights, that'll go a long way towards improving your chances at success.
It certainly will. I think a lot is going to come down to how well, assuming it's coming, the first spawn hold happens, right? Because if you get a first spawn hold, then you're going to start to build up ultimates, and that's just going to snowball into advantages, again, for the defensive side. And I'm sure that that's what Appalachian State is thinking about doing right now. They're at least considering it if they don't go that way. And it's going to be up to Auburn to try and punch through as hard and quick as they can so that they can get that card underway, because they're looking at 2 to 3 team fights that they have to win just to get to the first point.
That's very true. And if you look at the course of the map of Havana in general, it's going to be a very long, drawn out experience. You don't typically see
Yes.
fights happening very far off the objective. So things are going to get very drawn out with the respawns coming in, particularly when they're this close in the case of a spawn hold. And you can already see App State indexing towards that rush. And Auburn is likely going to try to match, but they have to figure out a way to break this, because if App State buys too much time on their defense, it's going to be almost impossible for Auburn to come back.
Yeah, it certainly will be. And I think it's interesting that Prince Willie is hovering over the hog right now, because there
Yeah.
is insta-pick potential right there, and that could come in handy here. They do go over the Diva, which makes a little bit more sense considering what the composition is looking like while you're running it. Auburn comes out of the gates from the left side of point. They're going to start the engagement over there, it seems. Just each team trading blows at the moment. Dave goes down a little bit low for Appalachian State, forced to back up just a little bit. Maywall comes in as well from the Brad. Immortality has to be procced by Maj, and now Auburn is looking really, really good at this point. Dave Shields going down very low. He gets moved way out of position as well, and just goes down because of that. And Auburn has cracked this first corner, and made the first crack in the armor of App State.
Fascinating to see, because if you look at the sort of key difference here, it is just the DPS between the May and the Reaper, but the May is providing so much more value for Auburn when it comes to pressuring down Dave. That shield got blown up instantly, the wall gets dropped behind and forces the lamp. Now Madge feels forced to drop the window to engage and his own lamp, but they're going to run out of resources very quickly.
Yeah, they certainly are with both of those out of the fight. And Dave is removed once again. Werner getting a nice charge onto him. Charles picks off effortlessly as well. And now Auburn looking fantastic in this fight. They're going to get, they might even get it at this point in 2 fights. Ooh, backstab bad coming in with a late Death Blossom. Not the choice right there.
I think they're going to be sorely missing that, because, I mean, look at that ult bank for Auburn. That is 5 check marks in the top right of your screen. If App State chooses to recontest, it's not going to last very long, guys, I'll be honest. Diva getting back in the mech. That bomb could come in handy should they choose to do this, and they are. App State trying to touch the objective. The mail comes out from the Brad first, and Dave is instantly frozen.
Yeah, but it's McCree Martin who goes down first to the tack visor from Effortless. Self-destruct online now as well. It's tossed out by Prince Willie, as well as the sound barrier to try and keep Auburn up. But Diva comes in huge with a self-destruct right there. And this is going to be a hold from Appalachian State at the 9th hour.
Oh, 1 meter. 1.33 meters was all it took for App State to say, okay, we can still do this. But yeah, that Diva Bomb was clutch from the namesake in that top left side of your screen. Without that, I feel like there's just no way that Auburn loses that engage. McCree Martin is going to come into this next fight with Attack Visor, but to be honest, it's going to be difficult to get value unless if you go on a very wide flank, which isn't that likely, given that we're at this point in HAVANA first. There's no real good routes to reach it because look at how App State is covering this right side. Auburn will rotate through here, and you can also see that Prince Willie has swapped over to Zarya, so they're trying to take a little bit of a longer engage, get those bubbles out, build charge, and they're going to open things up at the window.
Here it comes. Yeah, the Maywall is out as well from the Brad to section off as many members of Appalachian State as they can, but they're not really that successful. Effortless now firing through this amplification matrix, doing a tremendous amount of damage. And here's the tack visor from McCree Martin. He needs for this to get value. The DMAC is out onto Diva as well. They go down very low and they're forced to back out at the last moment, and that gives an opportunity for Backstab Bub to pop up. But there's a couple of picks now for Appalachian State. Madge goes down though, so without the healing, this could turn in favor of Auburn once again, especially after Glisten is gunned down. Auburn caps that first point.
And in the heat of the moment, Auburn just sneaks it out from underneath App State's noses there, so it kind of feels like it's a lost cause at a certain point for App State. They just choose to disengage, they take that lost fight, but overall, good amount of time burned by App State given the circumstances. Backstab Bud swaps over to Doomfist as well on this recontest, and he uses all of his abilities and goes down, so it's a bit of a rough scenario for App State on this recontest. They have ults to do it, but it feels like there's really no chance to win in the long run. They're backing out, they're taking things slowly here, and in that meantime, that allows Prince Willie to get charged up and maintain it into the course of the next fight.
Yeah, and 10 is about ready to get this amplification matrix as well, and with the positioning of App State looking very, very rough right now, that window could do tremendous damage. We see it's popped already. The Mayball comes out as well from Auburn to try and close off Dave. There is some success there. The Shatter comes in after the grab, but the counter Shatter is big too. Both sound barriers are used. They're ults flying left and right now. Effortless trying to find some value, trying to find a high ground in a position to maybe use this tack visor to try and push away Auburn, but with Dave out of the fight already, it's looking really rough. But Backstab Bud is back in it with a pick onto Charles. 10 goes down as well. There's no more support for Auburn, and now it's just cleanup crew for Appalachian State.
I love the way that App State is playing these fights. They're not giving things up just because they lose a couple members early, and you can see throughout the whole of their composition, they are tooled to go the distance and come back in on recontest. They have a Doomfist. They just swapped over to Winston. The Soldier naturally can run back from spawn. You have the Lucio speed boost, the Diva. Everybody can get back quickly. It's really just about making sure that Madge doesn't die. And because of the fact that he never went down in that early engage, it always allows App State to come back, and that's exactly what happens. It's all off the back of Backstab Bud just getting that single pick, and he has to come up big again to burn more time.
That he does. Madge uses that amplification matrix early on to get a little bit of station for the rest of Appalachian State to move in. Backstab Bud goes a little bit low, but he goes in for the engagement. Finds some value onto the Reinhardt there. He goes in for the Meteor Strike, and he finds Werner with a Rocket Punch right afterwards. The DMAC comes in onto Prince Willie as well, and now Backstab Bud is free to just play in the back line of Auburn, and then that is exactly what happens. There's now less than a minute for Auburn to try and push it through this second point.
And how does Auburn come back in some of these engages? It feels like it's impossible to dislodge this Doomfist. He can come from any angle. When he gets that ultimate online, he'll get the cooldown refresh and come right back into your backline. You can't just save Lamp forever for this guy. And naturally, that means Auburn gets left out to dry. They're opening up this next engage with a window, but it's in such a rough position because App State kited away.
Yeah, and that kiting proved very, very crucial. Excuse me.
Oh, it gets two! That's such a big bomb.
From Diva again. That was tremendous. And now Auburn is just sent packing with less than 15 seconds to go on the clock. They're holding on by a prayer here to try and push this any further. It's going to be up to the Brad to touch.
And what looked like such a dominant opening for Auburn has quickly fizzled out. App State coming back in with a vice grip on this defense. All they have to do is close it out, and Auburn doesn't even get the touch on the point. That is a cart that stopped halfway through second.
Yeah, and you know what? Stopping in second is tough to do on defense. So it's going to be really hard, I think. Auburn wants a very strong spawn hold here. They have to get that if they're going to hope to hold Appalachian State back, because Appalachian State, they know where the finish line is now. They know where the checkpoint is. They know where that golden box of victory is going to be, and it is not too far through second point.
So if we think back on what we've seen from the multiple looks out of Auburn so far, I honestly believe that keeping the Brad on May was their best chance at success, just because of the fact that it allowed Auburn to pressure down Dave on that front line. And you're already going to see him come back on it again for this defense here. Notably, Prince Willie, who has been playing a lot of different heroes throughout this match, is going to select another new one on Sigma. Overall, though, I think it's kind of left Auburn in this state of wondering where their identity is. They don't really know how they're trying to take a lot of these fights because so many of these swaps are happening. Whereas App State only makes a couple of adaptations, but their core goal is still the same. Just walk it right into the front line. And it hasn't been unsuccessful up until, that spawn hold going awry at the beginning. They found their footing as soon as Backstab Bud went over to the Doomfist. So again, we might see that come out. He could play Reaper. At this point, it really is just about whether or not the Brad can get some good walls down onto Dave to get this spawn hold rolling.
Yeah, and let's see if that happens. Already Maywall comes out and catches a few members of Appalachian State out, but it's not going to be enough as people are able to push through it, take down that middle pillar. And now Appalachian State free to start swinging and moving onto Auburn. But Auburn's looking a little bit better for wear. Immortality Field has to come out to save Dave's life right there from Madge. And I'm sure he's happy it was there. Immortality Field out from 10 as well. So now Appalachian State can start to push, and push they do. Backstab Bud finds 3-4 immediately for Appalachian State, and this card is rolling.
The moment he saw 10 drop that Immortality Field, he was like, I'm going deep. Gets the 4K, has built up that ultimate, has accrued it, and he should be able to get a nice flank angle off should he choose to do so. Regardless, it looks like App State has other plans. They're trying to keep as many people on this cart to get it as deep as possible before this next engage starts. They seem confident right now. Look at the way that they're positioned. They're surrounding Auburn as they walk up this staircase, and they don't care that you're rotating because they still have map control. Look at how deep Backstab Bud is.
Ooh. Yeah, he's able to take the Immortality Field of 10 out, and now that means that the next engagement from him is going to be a lot more fruitful. Shatter comes in, but it is blocked by Dave. There's the Amplification Matrix as well. So much damage getting thrown through it. The Blizzard is on point to try and stop things, but is it going to result in anything? It does, in fact. 3 members of Appalachian State down, and Auburn has their first defense, which they desperately needed here. Their chances at this tournament are on the line, and they know it, and they're not going to make it easy for App State.
They've got plenty of ults to do it, too. I really love the way that the Brad is playing this May, particularly the way that he's using his Blizzards. It's a fight-ending tool. He's never really using it to engage a lot of these fights. He's using it as a way to secure it for his team, and that's allowing everybody else on Auburn to maintain those ultimates, particularly this Gravitic Flux from Prince Willie. It needs to be big. Force out this sound barrier early so that they have a good chance.
And here it comes. It catches a few members of Appalachian State, but nobody falls to it. Accretion thrown out, but it misses as well. And now Effortless has the tack visor. He's going to push many of the members of Auburn back on that high ground, out of the way of danger for Appalachian State. But Backstab Bud goes down to some excellent play from Prince Willie. 10, though, removed from the fight is spells trouble for Auburn. And now Dave is pushing as hard as he can into the line of Auburn. And this fight looks to be going the way of Appalachian State, but they've got to take care of the Brad. The Brad uses the Ice Block to try and stay in this fight, but it's only going to last for so long. 10 is still on point, though. Can they take them out? And it looks like that's going to be the case.
Just got to watch out for another recontest. I mean, Auburn just does not want to give this up, regardless of how good or bad their chances are. They've actually managed to get the window out from Madge, so, although they're going to give up some positional advantage on this second point, that's a big ult that's gone now. And to be honest, the more that they can do this, the more that they can force some errors out of App State, the better it's going to be, because they have to hold this down as well as they possibly can, and they're going to have to rely on App State messing up a couple times, because otherwise, I mean, it's just not a good look.
No, it's not. The Amplification Matrix comes out from 10, and that's going to be very, very crucial. Dave goes down low and is removed from the fight by McCree Martin. Dave got a little bit too aggressive right there, and now the members of Appalachian State are going to pay for that mistake, as Auburn is going to descend on them now and retake control of this cart. Appalachian State just decides to back off and give them the space. They know they've got time on the clock.
This is where the Doomfist kind of loses value for me, because you're forced to rotate with your team. If you split too hard, you're going to get poked out by this Cowboy plus Torbjorn duo on the DPS. So you can see him going up with the squad. Look at all these ults coming in from Auburn. That is just so much damage.
It is, but it is equalized immediately by Backstab Bud. But the weight of the initial picks is going to favor Auburn. At least initially, Appalachian State actually has more members on the ground. Now it's just the tanks for Auburn, and they know they have to stay alive. Else, the cart is going to plow through that last point. Dave coming back as quick as he can to try and make that happen. Diva takes a stun from an accretion, but remains where they are, and now Auburn's starting to move over top of Appalachian State to see if they can get some value here.
We got to watch Dave with this Earth Shatter. If he can lay out everybody on Auburn before the sound barrier comes out, they've got a great chance of winning this and finishing with a 2-0.
Yeah, that they do. Here comes the sound barrier. It's used before the shatter comes in. And there it is right there. It lays down many members of Auburn. And now that that sound barrier is expiring, Appalachian State can start to move forward. But the Brad has other ideas because there's a molten core all over the point. Picks coming in for either side. Right now it's an even fight on point. 3 versus 3. It's coming down to this. Can Effortless stay alive? Can Effortless get the picks that they need to? And it looks like they can. Prince Willie coming in on the wrecking ball to try and stall at the last moment. There's still a couple members of Auburn on point, trying to hold on for dear life because that's all they've got left. But Creed Martin goes down very low to remove the Cowboy is out of the fight. And now Prince Willie is about half health. Backstab Bub still doing tremendous work. But Prince Willie in the meantime has found value. And now there's a charge in from Warner, but he goes down very low after a shatter. Effortless is removed from the fight, though. This is getting dicey for Auburn. Appalachian State looking a lot stronger in this moment. And now it's just Charles on point with a prayer and a dream. The self-destruct comes in. It doesn't catch anybody out. They need to find this last effort to take this. But Prince Willie is back. Appalachian State hasn't finished this off as quickly as they need to. Dave comes in with a slam, backstab Bud with a rocket punch, and the members of Auburn are flying to and fro. There's just a meter left before Appalachian State takes it, and that's gonna do it. Appalachian State with a 2-0 win over Auburn in convincing fashion.
Jesus, Joker, you popped off that fight. Like, let me just throw that out there for you. That was an intense final moment in this 2-0 victory for App State. Backstab Bud comes back in after going down early on the Doomfist, and you can see in the play of the game, he was a high-impact player, to say the least.
Yes.
He was in the kill feed. He was in it frequently, getting a lot of the opening picks, particularly with that slam, with that ultimate, being able to reset and come back into those fights. I really do love that style from App State, and it's something that I really want to see them expand on throughout the rest of this tournament. Their ability to come back when things look very dire for them. They never gave up. When all the cards were on the table, they managed to come back time after time and get those fight wins under their belt. And honestly, that's going to bode very well for them going throughout the rest of this tournament. If they can prove that they can turn lost fights into wins, it's going to be difficult to overcome a team like that.
It certainly is. You know, they stayed cool under pressure. They never lost their heads, even when fights weren't going their way. Even when they were losing in an organized fashion. And I feel like that could sound odd, but I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because you can still get value while you're losing those fights, and you can still sometimes find a crack, find an edge to maybe swing it and turn it back. And that's exactly what we saw.
A lot of trust amongst all 6 players on that team. You could tell just from the way that they were playing. They were throwing their lives for the cause. They had to do what they had to do to open things up for the rest of their team, and nobody disappointed. Everybody showed up when it mattered. And speaking of which, we're going to get to talk to one of those 6 players coming up in this next interview. We're going to throw to a quick break to get ready, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back.
All right, so welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, your rank, everything we need to know.
All right, how you guys doing? I'm Staff Sergeant Anthony. I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, but I'm currently stationed in Tampa, Florida. I'm an infantryman in the United States Army. So for all you Call of Duty players out there, you know what I'm talking about here. That's what my job completely corresponds around. The easiest way to explain the infantryman is by the actual description itself, and it's to close with and destroy the enemy by means of fire and maneuver. All right, so anything that it's a 9-man squad, sometimes a 40-man squad, but most commonly operating in 9-man squads, to mantle, to air assault, meaning coming out of helicopters, who jump on and parachute out of airplanes, tanks, Bradleys, missile launchers, machine guns. We're subject matter experts in all of it.
It does sound like playing Call of Duty to me. Obviously, as a civilian, I don't know the fun that you guys have, but how would you say this relates then to Call of Duty? It sounds like you may be a player of video games, maybe?
I would definitely say that I'm a gamer. I've been a game. I think Call of Duty was probably the reason why I joined. There's a higher calling out there, and that's just you got to serve too. We see these guys in games, but I wanted to be that guy in the game, and I still game to this day.
So it sounds like you're an avid gamer. Is there time to be a gamer when you're in the military?
That's the question that usually comes out, and it's how do you do that but you're in the Army too? I've got a regular life besides deploying overseas. I've got a regular life, so I work 9 to 5, and then I got to go home and be dad, and then after that, when the nighttime comes around, that's my time to shine, and it's Call of Duty.
Now, you said Call of Duty was something you were doing that helped you want to become infantryman. Well, how did playing video games translate into what you're doing in the military?
Playing video games was obviously, it's they're kids games, right? But there was just certain things that I seen inside the game that just looked honorable. It just looked like I want to be that person, just like watching a movie. I saw something in the game and I said, I want to be that person. I want to be the one defending freedom. I want to be the one that's out there putting their neck on the line. And just playing the game, there were specific missions that I'd play in the game. There's a specific mission on Call of Duty 4. It's called All Gillied Up. That was the turning point for me to join. The guy in the sniper suit, I was like, that's what I want to do. I have to do that. So currently right now, I'm recruiting for 2 or 3 years, and I'll go back. It's a broadening assignment so that I can find the next generations of infantrymen and allow them to enlist. But in specific, my job, I've had on multiple occasions and numerous occasions where it's camouflage up. All right, sit in a position, watch, observe, take notes, call for fire. There's a lot of training involved, a lot of fitness involved, and I think that it all just completely correlates around what I was watching and now what I'm able to be.
So what can you tell the student? What can you tell the students out there that can really help them? Let's start with health and wellness. What are some health and wellness tips for these gamers out there who need some extra incentive to exercise that potentially could help them with their gaming, as well as their life outside of gaming?
Health and fitness is huge. It's a triad. It's its own triangle of balance when it comes to mind, spirit, and physicalities, right? Gaming, drink water. All right, definitely stay away from all the sugary drinks while you're drinking. Get some exercise in. Sometimes when you're looking for those quick reflex muscles when you're playing, that also comes from your diet. That also comes from you working out. That also comes from your cardio. It's all a balance. If you want to play the game, you got to work out too, and it's just going to create a higher mental state that's going to allow you to be a lot more happier than just staring at a screen for too long. I'm going to be gaming until I'm 80, I swear. But in the meantime, I'll also be working out. I'll also be in cardio, and I like to get it in. And then gaming to me is like an award. You worked out today, so now get your gaming in. I don't have to feel guilty, and it just allows me to play comfortably.
So let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the Army and what you're learning when it comes to leadership or strategy or communication. How do things like that in the Army translate to everyday life or into your 9 to 5 or your family?
This one's very easy. There's certain things you cannot get from the real world, and that's how to deal with stress, how to be resilient, how to chase higher goals, never to be happy with just meeting the standard. The Army has taught me to always chase what's the highest level that I can be. How can I make the best version of myself? And it does it through numerous amounts of challenges. First being, of course, physical, passing basic training, leaving home for 9 weeks and 6 days, and then leaving base for 30 days, leaving my family behind. I had to be independent. I had to mature faster. I had to make critical decisions, because if nobody's making the decisions for me any longer, it's me. I'm reaping the absolute consequence of any actions that I fail to make or make. And so it's really taught me to be independent, mature, look at things from the outside versus living in the moment, looking at if I do this, this is what could happen. So there's critical thinking that's involved, but it all comes down to the testing, that you're always being tested every single day. And it's just helped me be stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually.
What are some incentives that you can tell these young men and women about the Army?
Incentives are exactly why I also wanted to be here. With that being said, education, your school's taken care of. I mean, that one's a very simple one. I know we've heard it before, but school is absolutely taken care of. It's paid through tuition assistance. It's paid through the GI Bill, the Montgomery GI Bill for all of you active duty and or somebody who's part-time Army, 1 week in a month reserves. You've got the ability to be a full-time student in school and have it paid for. Healthcare is also paid for. This one is a fun fact for you. If anybody does wear glasses in the Army and they want to receive LASIK treatment, that's actually an elective surgery the Army offers you, so that you don't have to wear glasses anymore if you choose to elect that surgery. So different things like that, you're covered, vision, hearing, your whole body, bumper to bumper, it's full coverage through TRICARE. Some other fun things that I like is definitely going to be just, of course, the on-base living for anybody who's a single soldier and even married soldiers as well. There is something to do. Bowling alleys, restaurants, you guys rock climb, you guys can go out and hike. There's ranges, there's even places with just a bunch of Xboxes and PS4s set up everywhere. It's amazing that you're able to have a quality, this quality of life, and still serve the United States at the same time.
Love it. Well, is there any last things you want to tell the students out there that are playing in this tournament right now, or that are watching live as we speak?
Definitely. You guys play your hardest today. At the end of the day, it's about having fun. Do your thing. If any of you guys are thinking about the Army, sometimes you just got to take a leap. You got to take a leap, and you can still game. Write your own book. Do not be featured in somebody else's book. Write your own story, and that starts today.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Staff Sergeant Anthony, for being here today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys too.
Hello, we are back, everybody, and we have a fantastic interviewee coming in for you. We have Dave, the main tank from Appalachian State, here to talk to us a little bit about the match that you just saw. And first off, Dave, I just want to say congratulations on a very convincing 2-0 victory over Auburn.
Thank you.
Now, to start things off, I wanted to know, it looked like you were getting a little bit caught out sometimes early by the May on some of those on that first map, but it stopped. It stopped. And, well, what I wanted to know is actually, like, what changed? What adaptations did you make? Because you made them quickly and you made them very well, and it really, really helped out.
So, first push attack, I was just on Ryan. I wasn't really, I don't know. I think I was just overextending too much. I wasn't really thinking about their May, and I would just go in and I was just thinking, like, I just need to pressure the Ryan, and then I was like, oh, I'm getting walled. This is not working. And then I just started to slow play it. Like, that's pretty much all that happened between the first round, second round, is I just slowed the tempo down a lot.
Gotcha.
Worked out pretty well for us.
I can relate to that. As a main tank main myself, I'm like, oh, yep, right, May. Gotta play slow.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, you gotta play slow now.
So, first question from me is to provide a little bit of context to those watching that might not be familiar with you. Could you tell us a little bit about your history playing competitive Overwatch, whether it's in collegiate, tier 3, anything like that?
Yeah. So I used to play on a team called Illusion Gaming. We're in a
Hmm.
big team. We played for a long time though. Probably started back 2015. I was like flat
Wow.
diamond for a long time,
Oh my
and then
gosh.
eventually hit masters, and then hit GM pretty quickly after. And that's when I started to compete more seriously. I think the best team I was on was like a 4-3 team. We competed OD for a while. I actually competed in DreamHack too as well and got
Wow.
fourth
That's
at
so
the
cool.
LAN there. There was a
That's
couple
awesome.
contenders teams there, so that was fun. But
Yeah.
recently, the past for like maybe 3 years, I was very serious into it. But recently, I've just been putting it on a little bit on the back foot, focusing on school. But I still play for the team here,
It's
so
really
I
cool
still have
to
some of it.
it's really cool to see, players in general just supporting the collegiate scene as a whole by participating and giving it their all. And second question from me is going to be, who in this tournament are you looking forward to facing next? If you were going to continue playing on, whether you reach the finals or even going to the LAN, is there anybody you're looking forward to facing?
Um, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not even entirely sure who all's in there. Who all's the options right now?
That's okay. That's okay. You just keep your head down, stay in the
Yeah, we
game
just take
instead.
it
I like
game
that
by game,
mentality.
you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, keep your focus just on
Yeah.
what's in front of you. Gotcha. Well, that makes a lot of sense. And to close things out, I guess this kind of tacks on to what Amentus was asking. What are some of your expectations for this tournament? Are you set on getting that first place spot? Are you set on trying to make it all the way to the grand finals in the land? What is your all's plan and expectations moving forward?
Well, the plan's never to lose. That
Yes,
should never be the
of
plan.
course.
So, the goal is to win. Obviously, we want to try to make it as far as we can. Grand finals would be great. I'd love to go compete on LAN again. It's been a long time. Um, but yeah, going into this game, we really had no expectations. It was actually our first actual match as a team. All we've been doing is scrims, and we
Oh
even had a
wow.
sub in that we never played with. So, but it
Oh,
worked
and
out
what
pretty
was
well
that
for us.
like? Yeah. Playing with the
He
sub,
fit pretty
which by the
well
way was
because
backstab,
it
right?
was backstab, and
Yes.
it is a lot easier to fit in with a DPS than it is for like a support sub or tank sub because
Mm,
DPS you shoot things, and tank support it's a lot more. You gotta actually have coordination with your team, and it takes a lot longer to build up than it does for DPS. But it worked well for us, and he was a great sub.
that's fantastic to hear. And yeah, he certainly paid dividends, I think, tonight. He was in the kill feed a lot.
Yeah,
Well, that's
yeah,
gonna
he
do
was
it
in it.
for questions from me. Oh, actually, before we close though, any shout outs you'd like to give?
Shout out to the team, they're great. Shout out to App Esports. I actually run the esports thing here, so I don't just play the
Nice.
Overwatch. I actually run
Wow.
the whole scene here. Um,
Congratulations and kudos to you.
yeah, I'm still building it. It's still a work in progress, but yeah, we're getting there. I would like to do a random shout out here to Gaming Illusion. That's an organization I run that I've actually really got me into Overwatch originally. So
Awesome.
yeah, those are probably the shout outs.
Well, thank you to all of them. And thank you so much for joining us for an interview tonight. Congratulations again on a fantastic victory. And good luck to you and Appalachian State in the future of this tournament.
Thank
That's
you.
going to do it. You are welcome. That's going to do it from us here in the broadcast booth. Before we close things out, just one more thank you to the U.S. Army for sponsoring the CENC Southeast Invitational. Mentos, do you have any final words you want to leave the audience with?
What more to say than I can't wait to be here again soon. I'm going to be back on the mic with you very shortly next week,
Yes.
coming back in for the semifinals. Looking forward to casting some more collegiate Overwatch with you. And overall, just really looking forward to seeing the level of play increase as we continue forward. Just seeing how both of these teams played today, I can already tell that the caliber of play is going to be very high for the rest of this tournament. So hopefully we get to see more people tune in next time as well. And I can't wait to see you then.
Same. All right. Well, from us here in the booth, thank you for tuning in. GG's and see you next time.
GG's, everybody.
broken and alone. I feel the rain crashing down all around this empty town. I'm searching for the lost and found, but you don't care, you're unaware. Keep moving like the scars aren't even there. It's in the air like a blazing flare. Don't stare 'cause the